Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Southern Gateway Chorus live stream. My name is Zach Coleman.
And my name is Joe Hunter, and welcome to everybody. And tonight we are fortunate, very fortunate, to have an extra special guest. One of the areas that I'm sort of familiar with, being a judge in the barbershop world, is having a lot of judge friends.
Mm-hmm.
And the person who's on tonight is the current category specialist in the performance category, and we will discuss all things judgy tonight.
We're getting
So,
judgmental.
we will be very judgmental. So, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Mark Kettner.
Woohoo!
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me, Zach and Joe.
So, Mark, when Joe said you were going to be on the show today, I got excited because I don't know if you know anything about it. I've been a bit of a quartetter for the same quartet for 10 years on and off, and that's always been our lowest category is what is now performance. So I'm glad to have you. What's that?
I said that, Mark, you probably judged them at some point.
No, I have probably never have, and never really been up to Johnny Appleseed to judge. So you can't. So I'm
Good. So I don't get to blame you for the random 72 we got the year that we ended up 79 something.
We give the scores that everybody that we observe and that everybody is giving us. So
sure. And before we go too far into it, for you people watching at home, chat is still live. You got any questions for Mark or anything you want to say? You throw it at us, and maybe you'll get on the air. Oh.
Yeah, maybe you can question some score that Mark did give you.
Sure. If you recognize the name from your score sheet, we want to see you in the chat now.
So yeah. Anyway, it's great. It's great having you on. Mark and I do talk quite a bit. And have done it a lot during this whole pandemic time because it's been a very interesting and challenging time. And Mark, I guess I'm going to throw it over to you. That maybe you can describe a little bit some of the challenges that you've had to deal with as category specialist, particularly during these last 15 months.
Well, it really started in February and March of 2020 when we saw the world kind of reacting, and especially in the United States, to a lot of the COVID restrictions and people making changes to their daily life. So unfortunately, what happened is all of that converged about the week of the first contest of the spring, which was Sunshine District. And interestingly enough, they canceled their contest essentially the day that it started. So it was on that Friday. And there were judges even in the air on the way to the contest. And while they were in the air, the contest got canceled for reasons of safety. And we understand that now, why they did that. But a lot of the big challenges came right at that point and afterwards, as we were constantly trying to figure out what would the landscape look like from that point on for barbershop contests and what we do. And, even thinking about here's all these spring contests where what do? They qualify groups to go to international. We did not know on the 13th of March or whatever day that was that first contest was canceled, how that was going to impact the contest that was supposed to be in LA in 2020.
Yeah, it all seemed like it was going to be relatively short term, and then it just kind of didn't get to be short term.
Well, it feels like a million years ago, but just to remind people, 15 days to stop the spread. Remember, that's what was being said at that point. So, okay, we can deal with maybe being down for a little while and then get back going. And then that changed pretty fast after that.
That's right. It was just constantly dynamic. And so myself and others on the SCJC, the Society Contest and Judging Committee, so all the category specialists and Steve Armstrong, we're constantly working at looking 3 months out, what's going to happen. So then we find out that LA gets canceled, and then it's like, what's the impact on the fall? Well, by that point, COVID was really ramping up, and we could see that contests were going to be impacted at the district level again. And so you get to a point then where you start thinking about what can we do to keep judges active and interested and, sharp with their scoring and their, abilities to coach people. And so we had to just get creative too in how we were interacting with each other as a category to make sure that we kept people interested. I mean, and it's tough when something you love and is a big part of your life, and we all probably know that, how much of an impact it is on what we think about it every day. I think about barbershop every day.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's all of a sudden just takes a stop, it really is stressful on you and how it impacts your life.
Yeah, and there's a lot to unpack in that. I think let's just kind of start from the beginning. So it was all unfortunate, but of course you and the rest of the judging community have not just been sitting idly waiting for things, right? What have you guys been doing since all this went down? When everything was just, when there was no contest, what were you guys doing in the interim?
So we did several things. So kind of first off, I think for a little while we were just trying to figure out what mediums can we use to even communicate with each other. So I think the CEO of Zoom learned pretty quick that he was going to make a lot of money, and we definitely utilized this platform. But for example, early on we were getting together and just having some fun activities, like in our category, where we get together in small groups and watch some videos and
Mm-hmm.
talk about strengths and opportunities of the performances, and that was a lot of fun. But I think one of the things that kind of organically grew was that choruses and chapters
Right.
were trying to keep content interesting for everybody while they were stuck at home and not being able to get together.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of us got involved in being special guests on chapter Zoom nights, where we would talk about a topic that we were an expert on, or have a committee of us, maybe a few of us, get together across the judging categories to watch performances and give all of our own perspective on it.
Yeah.
And none of us were really actively seeking that out. It was chapters saying, I know Mark, I know Joe, I know other people. I wonder if they can help us and help us learn and help us grow as a chapter in this interim, so that when we get back together, we're smarter barbershoppers, we have more skills, etc.
Can we rename this episode that? I know Mark, I know Joe, I know other people. I'll just be other people. I can handle that.
Who are you again?
Other people.
Oh, okay.
But that's good. Yeah, Gateway did that for a lot. Actually, that was Joe's big thing, was getting the judging community together and getting people into some Gateway Zoom meetings. I don't know how common knowledge that was, but Gateway was together every week for a while, and is again now just in person. But yeah, that was a huge help.
Yeah, and that sort of thing was happening, I think, all around the country. As Mark points out, different judges did different things. I was co-teaching a class with Marty Lovick, another performance judge, where we were doing video watching of non-barbershop performances. And we've probably presented that 40 times in the last year. And that was to all various chapters. Same kind of thing, word of mouth. It's a tight-knit enough community, right, Mark? I mean, it's a tight-knit, that word gets around.
Yeah, and so I can speak as a chorus director myself, that not only was I being asked as a judge to guest on various other chapters, but I was actively seeking out people to bring content to my chapter meetings. And so I had everybody from Joe and Marty to Steve Tramack and Kevin Keller and Sandy Wright and many other people. And they brought a different flavor and a different subject matter. And what I loved is everybody just does it and they just want to do it, because they knew that if we don't do something to keep it together, there's risk that it could fall apart. And so we, as purveyors of the barbershop style and those who have deep love of it, we wanted to make sure that all the other chapters succeeded. And so the BHS actually then, and the judging community actually did a little bit more of a formal coaching that they advertised in the fall of 2020, that got a little bit of traction, where they actually would have a judge come and watch a performance that a chorus would provide, or a quartet, and actually do some coaching over the Zoom platform.
Yeah, I like
And
that.
they're doing things sort of a little like that for virtual Harmony University and
Hmm.
virtual international and that sort of thing. But you know, and this is the hard-bitten New Yorker in me getting sentimental. But
Here we go.
this is, well, I mean, I think you saw the very best. This is the very best of us over this last year, the 15 months. The amount of giving, the amount of willingness, enthusiastic willingness of all these I mean, these people who are my barbershop heroes, just willing to, you know, give 3 hours of their time, you know, all these nights just doing this stuff, you know, and that was impressive. It was impressive, and it was very uplifting, I think.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of excitement in the fall with all these contests happening and just the excitement for us. Listen, we can't do our job unless there are people there singing and performing for us so that we can interact with them and help them grow. So I'm super excited for the ability to, I'm excited that my chorus is back together and singing well. I'm excited to hear that you guys are back together and there's chapters all over. It's growing right now. It's things are getting back, and I'm excited to see folks at contests just enjoying, number one, just getting to see each other again. That's
Hmm.
the most important thing we do.
So
It's
speaking
it's
of,
feeling more and more normal all the time, wouldn't you say, Zach? I mean,
oh yeah. So speaking of where we've come since all that, I kind of want to get your opinion. I've had this theory for a while, and I've talked about it on the show about how all of the stuff that happened is going to inherently change what comes next. Now that we know all the capabilities that we have, now that we know what the technology can do and what access we have to different things, I kind of want to get your perspective, and also, I guess, a little bit of an inside scoop. What is the future of the judging community looking like right now? What are some other things? Will things change? Are we just going to say nope, we're back? We judge 3 times a year and then we do our other thing, or is something changing here? Something going to happen? Something different that may have happened over the last year?
The thing about judging in the past is we would all get together as a group every 3 years to recertify and go to our school and talk about the important topics. And you would see, you know, a fellow judge at a contest that you were judging, or we would get together at international, and it's just a small time to socialize and all that. Now we know how to get together as a group and talk about specific topics to learn and to grow as a category. So for example, this spring, I started a bunch of classes that we have about every other month right now where we get, it's not really a class, but it's just an open discussion on topics related to performance. So if we are using certain verbiage or certain topics that we talk to the performers about that we want a little bit more clarity and make sure that we are giving them tangible, actionable coaching tips and subject matter that they can go back and work on. We have gotten together using these online platforms and Joe can attest to this. We've had some wonderful discussions that I don't think that on topics that I don't think we've had the time as a category to really dig into. And it's definitely led to some future discussions that we want to have. And so the ability for us to get together and stay fresh and stay up to date on the vision that we want to have for our performers. I think these platforms like Zoom and other things like that have existed before, and we just haven't utilized it. Now we know that we have a little bit more flexibility, but obviously the best we do is when we're out in the field and working with the competitors and seeing people face to face. But I think from the growth of a category and making sure that we communicate well with each other, I think we're going to find that we have more options to do that going forward.
Definitely.
yeah, I will just amplify that. You know, we started to actually look at topics like fearless performance, right? Dealing with emotional type issues, you know, and then having the opportunity with Zoom to get an actual, you know, someone who's a professional actor, a Hollywood actor, came on and addressed us about some of that. We would never have been able to do that in the past, but think about how we were able now very easily to connect up with this guy who got to talk to us about some of these topics and about, you know, how it works for him in the professional world of theater and movies.
That's
And
right.
do we get to know who that actor was, or is that top secret?
No, it's only top secret because he's not that well known.
Did his name rhyme with Schmorgan Schmreeman?
No,
His first name was Jeremy. How about that? That probably won't
Jeremy.
help you any. You might recognize his name as the last credit in a MacGyver episode or something. He does appear in shows out
Sure.
in Hollywood.
yeah, he was in a movie with Ben Affleck, so he actually acted across and interacted with Ben Affleck in a movie. But Jeremy Rabin, and he had just really good insight on vulnerability, which was a discussion, a topic that Joe and I in the category would talk to performers about, but we really kind of, I think, gained a really good perspective on where vulnerability falls in the arc of performing
Mm-hmm.
and its effect on people. So, I mean, it's those types of discussions that when we get together every 3 years at category school to recertify,
Sure.
there's a short window, there's a short few days we're getting together, and there's so much to talk about that it's hard to really, having planned one of these, and Joe's planned one of these, it's hard to carve out. You wish you had twice the amount of time to talk about these topics.
Sure.
Or more, right?
Yeah, and so having this ability to do this on more frequent basis and regular basis, we all hate that we haven't been able to sing or get together, but surely we've learned something out of it, and we've gained a little bit more expertise and understanding and applications of some of the things that we've talked to performers about.
Definitely.
So we think that's going to be a great tool for us going forward. Zach, the other piece of this topic that I just wanted to explore for a second, and Mark, you and I have talked a little bit about this, and that's whether, besides whether we make changes because of the technology, will the time that we've been away change how our performers look at the art form and how our performers treat getting together? Like our first set of contests that are coming up, guys are not going to have been able to spend a year and a half drilling a performance package, but they are going to be able to have a wonderful time and a real genuine time celebrating getting together.
Absolutely. Just imagine how these performances are going to be when they're motivated by the excitement of getting together with their friends who they haven't seen in a year and a half or longer, and how that energy is going to just drive a hopefully very organic performance, rather than that, kind of the model we typically get into, which is, okay, we have contests in April and here it's January, so let's start the
cycle,
and it's very intense, and I enjoy that. I mean, there's part of it that I enjoy, but I think it's going to be just this really cool dynamic that happens this fall when people are getting together.
So let me kind of shift a little bit here. We're talking a lot about what you are looking for as a judge when you come back, all these things that you're expecting. But this. I'm going to take a second to do what I like to do with our guests and take advantage of you. So for the sake of a quartet guy or any other quartetter or chorus person watching, can you kind of get into, you've mentioned a lot of things like vulnerability and organic performance. What actually are you looking for? We're getting a little more baseline of judging in general right now. What are you looking for? If you had, I don't know, one piece of advice that you could give to a quartet person or a chorus person or a director or whatever about getting that score just up above just that spot you've been stuck on, what would you say? What would that be?
Well, some of the tenets of our category that we talk a lot about more and more now are believability and authenticity and creativity, a connection with the audience that's not covered up by technicalities or just worrying about notes and music, et cetera, and all that. So we wanted just a good connection with the audience. And I think one of the things I've really learned more about my chorus and how they prepare from a performance standpoint and how I talk to our performers is, how do you instill the understanding of how you are going to affect the audience earlier in the process of learning music? So rather than, and we've talked about this for a long, long time, but I think it really is starting to bubble up more in all of our conversations, is there are so many more important things than notes and words earlier in the process to get your head around, that allows you to be a lot more natural, a lot more personable, a lot more connected to the audience when you're on stage. And so talking about that process a whole lot earlier in the cycle, if that's the first thing you talk about as you get a new piece of music, is say, what is the memorable part of this music that I want the audience member talking about, and coming up to me afterwards saying, boy, I really remembered this. I love this section. How do you want them, where do you want them sitting at the end of the day? What do you want them to know about you? It's not rocket science. It's not a difficult discussion. But it's something that we don't do. Even me, sometimes in my chorus, as we're prepping, because as a director, I'm thinking about all these different aspects, and it's not all just performance. It's some of the kind of nuts and bolts learning, and it is notes and words and tuning and etc. But there's just the process almost of learning and preparing almost needs to be flipped on its head to some degree, in that we can talk about the atmosphere, the scenario, like all these things I would talk about. What's that impact on the audience member? If we remember it's about them and not necessarily about us, that's a big part of the having an impactful performance, in my opinion.
That's a big thing to get into too. That's a lot of like performing, not just like, your average barbershop quartet, but like, we're gonna get into some performing, and that's pretty big. Joe, back me up. You know what he's talking about more than I do.
Listen, we heard some of the same kind of thing last week from George Gipp, right? I mean, now to be fair, we're talking mainly to performance guys, right? So us performance guys are sort of on the same, getting on more and more on the same page about this sort of thing.
Bring in a music guy. Jeez, Joe.
We're going to have to bring in some music guys and some singing guys to balance this out over the next couple of weeks, Zach. So, to get the nuts and bolts side of it, because, us, we kind of say, yeah, nuts and bolts are nice, but nuts and bolts are only in service of what you're trying to accomplish. But the nuts and bolts guys might say, hey, but you got to get those nuts and bolts really working. So absolutely. I mean, I think we in performance all believe very strongly, and we think this translates even to the other categories, frankly, even though I was being funny, that it translates, that if you get yourself into the mindset of saying, why am I doing this song? Why did I choose it? Why am I presenting and sharing this with the audience? It raises the whole thing. And for a group, and for the kind of groups like Zach, the kind of groups that you are in, which are such high quality, I'm going to say this, good, high quality groups that maybe run against a ceiling at some point, right?
Okay.
And that ceiling might be that kind of thing that said, gosh darn it, we're going to compete and we have to do really well, and we got to do all this technique stuff really good, right?
Joe, I don't like that you're reading my mind. I see myself in this image and I don't appreciate it, or whatever it said. I don't remember.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But not sorry.
I think oftentimes it's some trust too, that the performer has to have with the audience to say, we know what we're doing on stage from a vocal standpoint, and now we can get past that and actually connect and be real and have more appropriate mannerisms and the way we hold ourselves and the way we communicate. And I think a lot of groups, as they're moving up and getting better, they still have to say, I have to prove to you that I'm a very good singer. And when you do that, then all of a sudden, all those technical things get in the way, because they're saying, I have to craft this and I have to keep it in control. I have to keep it in control and I can't let go of that. But the audiences are smart, and they detect when something is good, and they may not need it to be exactly perfect, because they want to see the humanity that you have as a singer and as a person on stage, because humans do that. They connect with each other because they see the real humanity in each other.
Yep.
And if we can get that from our singers, to do that a little bit more, from anything from this, heart-wrenching ballad to even the humanity of just showing the audience, we love to sing and share with you when we're singing Sitting on Top of the World.
Sure.
People see that and they get it and they understand it and they love it. So if we could just, sometimes it's just saying, everybody take it easy. It's sometimes it's that, and I think really as we shifted from the presentation category to the performance category, almost in my mind, it's a little simpler because you don't have to worry about this equation of I need this and I need this and I need this and this to make it a barbershop performance.
Right.
Make it a performance, an all-encompassing performance that everybody can enjoy and everybody can relate to. And I think that's, if anybody hears anything, I'd like them to hear that they just open up your heart.
Sure. And that's hard too. That's not like, oh, we're gonna go ahead and just open up now. Like that's a big thing to do, especially on stage in front of a lot of people you don't know.
Zach, I'm going to share a little dirty secret with you. Some of the discussions that we have internally, and certainly that Mark and I have had, and others in the category have had, and that little dirty secret is that this kind of a shift, and this kind of feedback to performers is much harder. It's not. It doesn't get you that. It doesn't necessarily provide that immediate hit of dopamine, that immediate, return that you get from technical things, right? So that we could go into an evaluation, and almost all of our judges, all of our cadre of judges, we have like 40 performance judges, can all, I think, pretty easily raise a group that's scoring at a 60 level to a 63, 64, like that, just by doing 3 technique things.
Okay.
But to get a group who's at a 75 to suddenly break through and become an 80 or 85, that's no longer about just little technique things.
Yep.
It's a much more difficult discussion. It's a much harder discussion. And we're trying to find our way towards how do we make that happen? And how do we make it happen where it doesn't feel like either we're being, artsy fartsy about it, or have the performers walk away going, we're not sure exactly what they said, but it sounded important.
Right. So Mark, I want to go back to you on something real quick. We're talking a lot about what we want to hear from our performers. And I just can't shake the feeling that you guys just didn't come up with this overnight. So just real quick, how much, I don't want to say off night work, but like how much do you as the judging community do while not judging?
It's sometimes I feel like it consumes every free evening I have outside.
Good.
Yes, there is a lot we do because it's like a very dynamic machine of, number one, keeping our judges motivated, keeping them active.
Sure.
And we also have all these new candidates who just came into the system who really in previous cycles would apply in the fall after category school, and then through the winter as applicants work to become a candidate the next summer. So that's like a 1-year cycle for them to become a candidate so they can practice for 2 years. Well, that started fall of 19 and got very impacted by COVID. And then the live school just kept getting pushed out and pushed out and pushed out. Well, now it's happening at Labor Day Jamboree this year. And so just think about that whole cycle got moved to a 2-year cycle. And so there's another group of fine people who want to be judges, who we are really working to educate and grow, et cetera, and learn about them. And so that was a lot of work just in this last year.
Sure. Just
making sure to keep everybody motivated in that group too, because they're disconnected from barbershop too when they can't go to chorus rehearsal or their quartet meeting and all.
And just for the information of our audience, and also for you, Zach, we have candidates from all around the world. We have a number of them who are very well-known performers who perform at a very high level. A couple of them who are professional theater people. So we're really upping the game that way. But we've got people from all around the world. So we have candidates from Germany. We have had candidates from New Zealand. I don't know if we have any right now.
No, but we've had them from Sweden in the past and the other
Mhm.
In
categories.
Australia.
Yeah, yeah.
So while we're talking about becoming a judge, let me take another second, Mark, to take advantage of you. Um, for somebody out there who's watching, or maybe on the show, who's been thinking about becoming a judge, uh, what is again just that one piece of advice you could give for somebody who wants to do it and doesn't like maybe doesn't know the process or maybe doesn't know if they're ready or if they can? What would you tell that ginger guy or that other random person who isn't on the stream?
Well, there's a whole process that we could talk about on how to go through and apply and get all the right paperwork and the process to do it. But I think one of the biggest things is if you want to become a judge, it is definitely something that's in your heart to help the performers and help performers get better. And so your ability to interact with people, be personable, helping people grow. If you've had experience coaching other groups, if you have had experience as a leader in your organization, those are definitely very, very important and helpful to get in the program. And then just being proactive, motivated, bringing new ideas, being not afraid to share, and thinking about how you could help move whatever category you want to apply for, but move them in a positive direction because our performers are constantly ahead of us. They are challenging us and they are bringing new creative things to us all the time and making sure that we have people, we want to see people who have great new ideas come into the program to help constantly evolve as a category. And as Joe can attest, it's always an evolution as we move from presentation to
Sure.
performance. That took several years for
Mhm.
that whole process to just happen, and it took a lot of discussion
Definitely.
and you know soul seeking of where we wanted to be as a category and how we wanted our performers to understand that.
Mhm.
It's very exciting, having been a judge now for a while and having been a past category specialist myself, to see the bar getting raised in terms of these new people coming in and the new energy that comes in with them and all this incredible level of talent. It's not so exciting to be one of the old guys watching all that happen and then going, oh my goodness, I really have to up my game just to keep up.
Joe, I'm starting to become one of the old guys too.
Well,
I
no,
know. Well, we
I don't
all,
know why you say
welcome to the
that.
club.
Yeah, oh, me too. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Getting
yeah.
old is
No, I
well,
don't think so.
I think that's going to be our show. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. This was a ton of fun, very informative for me especially. I don't know what they think, but I had a great time. Is you got any final thoughts, things you want to say before we call it a night?
Well, I number one appreciate you guys having me. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for the great discussion, and I wish the Southern Gateway Chorus a lot of success this fall as you're getting back together. Just enjoy your time together as we're getting back to singing. That's the most fun part of this last month or so for me is just seeing my guys coming back together. So I wish the best to all of you going forward.
Appreciate
Great.
having
Those
you
are great
on.
words, Mark. Great words. And those are, I think if we can all just cherish and hold on to that, the longer we can hold on to that, I think the better we're all going to be. So again, thank you so much for being here, for taking the time, and for helping to educate us all a little bit on this whole thing. So with that, I think we're pretty much done, right, Zach?
I think it is.
Yeah, I'm Joe Hunter. This is Zach Coleman.
I'm Zach Coleman. Go ahead and leave a like, a comment. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And on behalf of the Southern Gateway Chorus, hope you have a great week.
Take it easy, everyone.